Hey team, Coach A here, and welcome to Unit 2, Day 3, History of the Korean Peninsula. So our objective for the day will be after reading the reign of Korea's last dynasty, learners will be able to determine the central idea of text and author's purpose through 4 text-based questions, scoring 66%, RH 9-10.2. Here are our guiding questions. Please pause and review our guiding questions and our I can statements for the day. So, this is the do now. Please take care of it. So, geography matters. So, of all the things we talk about in this class, I really want to just hammer home how important geography is, because it is an overlooked concept in American public schools. We don't study geography like we used to, which is absurd because without geography, you really can't understand the minutia and the major factors of certain situations. If you didn't know geography, you might not know why LA is so dry, why there is an issue with its water appropriation rights, all of these things. Why is Poland always invaded? Because it's flat. Why are there tornadoes in the Midwest? Again, flat. So geography is so important to humans and especially human history. Before we had planes and cars and trains and all of that, we had to walk or ride horses or donkeys or what have you. And because of that, we tend to go with the path of least resistance. That's why you're going to notice the difference between Boston, a very old city where all the roads are mixed up, mashed up, terrible, and New York, which is a new planned city. New Jersey's highway system, we use lots of roundabouts because the developers bought the land in mass. So what this all boils down to is the importance of geography and how key of a concept it is. Korea is no different. It's located on the Chinese doorstep, and that plays a key role in its development. To its north is Manchuria, North China. And of course, to its east is Japan, an island nation that is very close to the southern tip. So we'll go into all of the various accoutrements of why Korea's geography is so important, but I want you guys to be paying attention to geography throughout the rest of this course. So the creation myth. Every great ancient civilization usually has a pretty cool creation myth, and Korea is no different. So the son of the divine creator came to the human world to establish a nation on the top of Mount Paquet. A tiger and a bear come to him and beg him to make them human. They're told if they can eat mugwort and garlic and avoid sunlight for 100 days, he would transmogrify them. So the bear does it, because bears are naturally cave-dwelling, and the bear is turned into a woman. The tiger, needless to say, failed. So the son of the divine creator felt sorry for this woman, for she's alone. So he married her, and they had a son, Dangyun, who became the first ruler of Korea. Dangyun made a walled city on Pyongyang in the capital in 2333 BCE, and named his country Joseon, the land of the morning calm. And he ruled for 1,500 years. But we're going to look at the world of historical precedent. And what we do know about the Korean Peninsula is that before the Han Dynasty moved in, it was primarily occupied by smaller nomadic tribes, so smaller kingdoms. But 3 major kingdoms would gradually arise on the Korean Peninsula. And that, of course, would be the Goryeo, that would be the Shilla, and the Paquet. This is the map, as we can see. And although they were independent from Chinese control, they're very influenced by Chinese culture. And we've been discussing about the religions. So Korea is no different. So Korea brings with it shamanism. Shamanism is deep roots and folk beliefs. So it's related to the ancient communal worship rites and offerings to the gods of heaven. Participants seek to resolve human problems through meetings of humans and the spirits mediated by the shamans. So this is the folk belief of Korea. But around 372 AD, Buddhism comes into play. Now, again, Buddhism is a non-deist religion, but does become the state religion of Goryeo, based on the philosophies of Siddhartha. So it's a long, complex ideology based on a lot of proverbs, but these four statements really resolve Buddhism quite well. Our life is shaped by our mind. We become what we think. Suffering follows an evil thought as the wheels of a cart follow the oxen that draw it. Our life is shaped by our mind. We become what we think. Joy follows a pure thought, like the shadow that never leaves. From desire comes grief, and from desire comes fear. One who is free from desire knows neither grief nor fear. Attachment to objects of desire brings grief. Attachment to objects of desire brings fear. One who is free of attachment knows neither grief nor fear. And the final non-theist religion is NeoConfucianism. So the Joseon Dynasty promotes Confucian philosophy as the national philosophy. So what Confucianism is, boiled down, is a complex system that is collectively imported from China of moral, social, political, philosophical, and quasi-religious thought. So it is less about worshiping God and more about a strict structure. So to follow the concepts of yi, righteousness, yin, honesty and trustworthiness, chung, loyalty to the state, li, includes rituals, propriety, etiquette, and hashao, which is love within the family, love of the parents for their children, and the love of children for their parents. So again, Neo-Confucianism is very much based on structure, how the world should be. And the three kingdoms that come out are the Goryeo, which is the North Kingdom. Most connected to China, it was highly militaristic, and King Guateo the Great and his son, King Jiangshu, took most of the peninsula and included parts of Manchuria. They lasted quite a bit of time, but they will be taken down eventually by the Shia, or the Shia, which is the Eastern Kingdom. Most isolated and the most culturally distinct to begin with. At the time, it was considered more of the backwards kingdom, but they caught up very quickly, and they were able to make an alliance with the Tang Dynasty. They become a tributary state of China and were able to, with Chinese help, take over the Goryeo dynasty. And the final dynasty, the Baguette dynasty, is the West Kingdom. It was a maritime sea power. At its height, it controlled most of the west shoreline. It became a cultural go-between between Japan, Korea, and China, since it is at the bottom of the peninsula. So it was a seafaring people, so they were able to move rather easily. But the Joseon dynasty goes from 1392 to 1910. So a 800-year-old dynasty. 6. I'm a history teacher, not a math teacher. But Treo, 1392 to 1398, founds Korea's longest dynasty, which will last until the 20th century. He moves the capital to Seoul, which becomes the political, economic, and cultural center of Korea, which it remains to this day. So to protect Seoul, he ordered the construction of massive walls and gates, which can still be seen today. I invite you to Google it. It's pretty neat. But he is eclipsed in greatness by Xiong the Great. From 1418 to 1450, King Sejong becomes Korea's greatest monarch by bringing stability and prosperity to the nation. His rule is known for good government based on Confucian classics, and most importantly, the creation of Hangul. His economic development and scientific discoveries and technological innovations are mostly brought about by his creation of this writing system. You want to find a way to make people more literate, develop a simple and effective way that people could learn to read and write. So he developed, I'm sure he had much help, but according to the history books, because history is written by the winners, he created Hangul, which is a purely phonetic alphabet with 14 consonants and 10 vowels. And what makes it so scientific is it is following the shapes of the vocal organs as they make the sound. Since I'm not Korean, I really can't display it, but I invite you to go to another YouTube video. Learn a little Hangul yourself, because according to him, a wise man can equate himself with them before the morning is over. A stupid man can learn them in the space of 10 days. And unfortunately, I haven't had 10 days to spare. So the impact of Confucianism on society. Confucianism contributed to the stability of society and perpetuated for centuries the continuation of a very rigid class structure. 10% of the population would be the Yangbang class. The upper class landowners, their goal is to become educated in Confucian classics, as well as learn about military service and government. 50%, the vast majority of the population, would be of the Yangman, farmers, merchants, fishermen, craftsmen, essentially a middle class, if you will. And then, of course, the 40% of the Chaomin, the lowborn. These are the disdained hereditary professions, such as butchers, shamans, entertainers, and slaves. So remember when we said geography matters? Well, geography mattered the absolute most at the end, because in our next lesson, you are going to learn about the Japanese and their Meiji Restoration, where they start to industrialize. This will lead them to need a foothold in the continent to mine natural resources. And Korea just happens to be the perfect place. So Japan annexes Korea by force in 1910. Another thing that makes it very agreeable to the Japanese is how close it is to Russia, which Japan in 1905 will go to war with. So in Japan in 1938, will outlaw the use of the Korean language and attempt to eradicate Korean national identity. Deep lament and resentment towards invaders prevail in Korean literature and music, along with attempts to grapple with this new modern form. This goes on to 1945 at the Potsdam Conference, where the United States, USSR, and the UK decide to divide the Korean Peninsula at 38th parallel without consulting the Koreans, which worked out totally well, and we had no other problems, and everybody was happy and healthy today, right, Kim Jong-il? So, more about that later. When you take US 2, you'll learn about the Korean War. But today, I want you guys to finish your independent practice. Do not forget to do your annotations. If you forget to do your annotations, I'm going to forget to grade it. Because annotations matter, annotations matter, annotations matter. Blue for point of view. Yellow for claim and supporting evidence. I don't think anything actually rhymes with yellow. Green for the keywords. Red for the questions. Please ask me at least one question so that you can get that credit. Otherwise, be smart, be safe, and I'll see you next time, guys. Later.